Yay. Hello and welcome to the
Hello.
Power to Shred podcast. This is
Thank
where
you for having
unstoppable
me.
energy, I am so grateful to have you here. So, the Power to Shred podcast is where unstoppable energy and peak performance are born from unlocking the power that's already within you. I'm your host, Dr. Audrey Lee, and it is my thrill. And I'm super excited to have Kirsty MacMillan here. And here's, like I was explaining, a short intro because I could be talking all day long about all of her accolades, but short and sweet. Two-time Canadian national champion in stand-up paddleboarding, mental performance mastery expert, and certified paddle Canada coach. Christy coaches her clients in mental performance skills such as focus, confidence, and visualization, key tools that she has relied on to achieve top performance finishes at the ICF World SUP Championships and the Carolina Cup's Graveyard Race. As Paddle Monster's certified mental performance coach, we are truly an honor to have you here. So look forward to diving into your journey and just getting to know you better and what you do. So, Christy, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me, Audrey.
Pleasure. So, would you care to share your journey? Because you have a mixed, you are a competitive athlete and you are a coach. So, what led you to where you are right here, right now?
Yeah. Thanks for having me. I discovered stand-up paddleboarding 10 years ago, exactly 10 years ago. So
Wow.
I fell in love with it. As soon as I tried it once, I knew I had to buy a board, and it wasn't that, it wasn't that popular 10 years ago. It was hard to find a board, but I did. And I love learning about new stuff. And so once I got paddling, I found out there was racing you could do with it. And so then that athletic competitiveness in me came out. And so then I wanted to get, actually, the first time I went to a SUP race, I was like my very first one. And I still remember Maddie LeBlanc coming, bouncing up to me and being like, is this your first race? Are you new? My name's Maddie. It was so cute. And now we're
Oh.
like so close. It's great. Um,
Mm.
anyways, so I started looking for good coaches, and in that journey got better, did more racing. Um, Finally got to do things like the Graveyard at Carolina Cup, which was like this awesome 24-kilometer ocean race out on
Mm.
out on the ocean and in through the inlet, and man, it was so fun. Um, Led me to doing like a lot of SUP coaching.
Mhm.
And then what happened was about a year and a half ago now, I was in Thailand racing. So I've been to 3 world championships so far, racing for Canada. And the first one was in Poland, like 3 years
Mhm.
ago. And then Thailand was a couple of years ago. And then Sarasota, Florida was just back 6 months ago. So in Thailand, we're at dinner and we've got this big long table with all of our Team Canada sitting around it, Larry
Mhm.
Kane and just all of us. There's an empty seat beside me, and partway through the dinner, a girlfriend of mine from Quebec comes walking in with a friend, and the friend sits in the empty chair beside me. And long story short, it's Suzanne Lear, who is like a multi world champion, maybe like 8 or 9 years ago now, but she was like a 4-time pro world champion. And
Mm.
because I was following everybody, I knew exactly who she was when she said her name. So I ended up becoming really good friends with her. I traveled to
Mm.
Canary Islands that winter and again just this past winter. So twice now. And when I
Yeah.
came back from Canary Islands the first time, I was like, what can I do to like up my coaching? You know, what's something else I can offer other than really knowing and understanding technique well, because I train with Larry Kane all the time. So
Mhm.
yeah, so that's how I brainstormed and came up with mental performance. And I found a certification. And as soon as I started doing it, I just loved it, obsessed with it, and totally love having conversations about it.
Mhm.
And excited because there's not a lot of access to this kind of information.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people, you know, if you're a professional athlete or if you're on an Olympic level team for your country, you probably do have a sports psychologist that's working with you. Um, but this is really important information that they don't teach you in schools. And that's why I'm so excited now to be working in a couple of schools and teaching teenagers this stuff. And just people like you and me who have a sport, we're adults, we have a sport we love, we want to get better at it. Well, you can only do so much physically, and the mental side is such a huge part of it. So, yeah.
Yeah.
So,
And isn't that amazing? So we started talking a little bit before we got on live, just obsessed with the mind, mental performance. Isn't it said is that we perhaps are using, I mean, not perhaps, most definitely human beings are using a mere fraction of what our human brain is capable of. And so if we can, that's where so much potential lies that physically, yeah, we could do so much. We are at a certain point, we all feel, you and I and other people that are listening in whatever sport that you're doing, you get capped at a certain point where like, I cannot do more than this. I cannot train more. I cannot sleep more than this. I cannot eat more than this. Where is there room? And that's the
yeah.
whole mental performance.
And the amazing thing is because it's mental. So there's a lot that we can do mentally training wise that is just as good as physical training. But when you're doing as much as you can, when you have a job and a family and whatever, when you're doing the most you can physically, you can absolutely be doing more mentally. Like visualization, for example, your brain can't tell the difference between if you're actually physically doing it or if you're imagining it really well using all five senses. When you're in a nice calm state, those neuronal pathways in your brain are still being formed. And guess what? You could do it for 15 minutes before you go to bed at night or when you first wake up in the morning or anytime, but it's not taxing your nervous system, right?
Right.
So,
Yes.
so when I work with clients, I have 7 skills of mental performance that I go through. And so there are things like elite mindset, which is the same thing as growth mindset.
Okay.
Focus, awareness, process over outcome, confidence and self-control, visualization and breath work, and routines and habits. And so you can kind of see just by those 7 things, those are all areas of our mental side that we can improve on, which is the cool thing about this certification. Everything I'm working with somebody on, I leave them with 3 to 4 actual drills that they can do to get better at the thing. So if you want to get better at your focus, I'm going to leave you with things like concentration grids and ABCs of focus and actual things that you can do so that you perform better. And so the idea is you work on these when you're training. So I know you paddleboard as well, but when I'm out on the water practicing and training, I'm also implementing this mental side so that when I get to a race, it comes a lot easier to me.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I'm
cool stuff.
really, really cool stuff. I'm curious about your approach to this all is when someone decides, hey, I really want to work with Coach Christy. I know that this is where I lack, awareness. I lack the knowledge. I need some help in here. How do you start with individuals? What's the conversation about?
Yeah. So I'll always do a Zoom call just to like consult with you at first and just to see how much do you know about mental performance? Where are you at with actually executing that? And then what are your needs? And most often, if I pull up a list of those 7 things, people zoom right in on one thing or 2 things that they're like, oh, I really need help with that.
Yeah.
And so we just have a conversation. If it's an athlete, then it's a conversation about competitions and races and how do they feel they're doing? And, you know, once I get talking to somebody, I can help guide them to where we should start. Ideally, somebody goes through all the 7 skills with me so that they have everything covered. But I definitely like to start out with what's like the most pressing and most important to somebody.
So that's interesting because I was wondering when I looked on it on your website that it has it clearly marked there. So I was like, oh, it's
Yeah.
wonderful how you break it down because, as you said, although mental performance has been in existence for a while, it's
Long
still
time.
people don't know about it. People don't know about it. And it's also powerful not only for athletes, for non-athletes, for anyone that when you have a mental, when you can perform mentally, you can perform your best in life. I mean, that to me is, what are you training for? And I like to say, I'm training for life. I want to have the best life possible, best quality. But I like how you really broke it down with the 7 steps and how when I was looking at it, like, because I just went through a 7-week program where each week was focusing on a different something. So I was wondering, like, oh, I wonder if she has a process that's like that. Perhaps it's different depending on the individual's needs, their time frame, et cetera, et cetera. And
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. But yeah, ideally it would be like a once a week thing where we kind of have an hour to talk about whatever that one topic is. I definitely don't want to overload people with too much information, but yeah, it's good to go through all of them so that they have a full understanding of all of it. And some people have, some people are better at routines and habits, for example, than other people.
yeah.
But yeah, I mean, everybody's different, but I think this is why I'm excited. I'm in a couple of schools actually coaching in the school.
Mhm.
And that's what I love about, especially working with teenagers. It's like, okay, we can talk about this for sports, and that's probably what they're interested in, right?
Mhm.
But this will equally help you with your academics, with going forward to university or college, um, and definitely in the business world.
Yeah.
If you're a high level executive, you need to be able to have your focus as good as it can possibly be. You need your awareness around you so that you can react and respond in a meeting in like the most calm, thought out, clearly way that you possibly can, right?
Yeah.
I've had executives that I've worked with that do visualization for big staff meetings with their CEO, for
Mhm.
example. And
Yeah.
it's like, I want you to visualize going in there feeling confident and strong and knowing that you know your stuff, things like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Would you care to take us through a short, of all of these, there's so many things that you can do, but maybe since you've mentioned a visualization, would you take us through a sampler, a taste of a visualization or some breath
Ooh.
work? Or is there anything of here that you really like? Ooh, this would really give people a good sense who's not truly familiar with what mental performance is and what your coaching is and your
Right.
coaching style. Is there
Right.
something that you care to share with us?
Okay. Well, you know what? I can share with you in your show notes for when the podcast comes out. I can share with you, I have an audio on my YouTube channel that will
Oh,
talk you through a visualization.
yeah.
And it's about 10 minutes.
Okay.
And it's the way that it will work the best is when your mind and your body are really nice and calm. That's how the pathways can form. So at the beginning of my visualization talk, I make sure everything is calm. It's kind of like at the beginning of a yoga class where they just get you settled in, right?
Right.
So I would say maybe send people over to listen to that to get an
Okay.
idea of that.
Yeah.
What I love explaining to people is what confidence is.
Mm,
And because it comes up a lot,
yeah.
whether you're an adult or 10 years old, it comes up a lot. And people don't really understand, like, it's this intangible thing that everybody wants, and
Hmm.
they don't really know how to get it. And so the secret to knowing about confidence is that it's actually an action. It's something that
Mm,
you do. It is not something that you're born with, or not something that, that guy over there has and man, I wish I had it. It's not like that. It's something that you do, and you do it with something called your BFS. So the B is your body language, the F is
okay.
your focus, and the S is your self-talk. So when all 3 of those things are rolling, then you are doing confidence. So body language, big and tall, like you're 10 feet tall and bulletproof. Um, shoulders back, eyes up, not making yourself small and, so nobody notices you. No, you have to walk and carry your body like when you see animals in nature that are trying to, be the king of the jungle, right? The bear is like up and arms are out, and that's how you want to carry yourself. Focus is so important, and it's the biggest thing. When your focus is on the present and being where your feet are, that is when you perform your best. Mm-hmm. You can't be mentally tied up in something that happened in the past. So, for example, in a race, mm-hmm. if you have a bad start to the race, you can't partway through the race be thinking about your bad start. Right. You can't be. Your brain can't be in two places at once. So it has to be present, and it has to be on things you can control, not on anything out of your control. So not on the other competitors and what they're doing, not on what your boss is doing in a big, important staff meeting. Focused on yourself, your own preparation, all things that you can control. You can expect other things to happen, but if you're just focused on yourself, that's how you're going to do the best. And then self-talk is a huge one. Mm-hmm. We have between 70 and 80,000 thoughts in a day. And when they did studies, they found that 70% of those are automatic negative thoughts. Mm-hmm. So that goes back to our, caveman days of trying to survive and looking for danger at all times. Right. Which we don't need to do anymore, but that is what our brains do. And so it's really important. I tell people this all the time. You cannot listen to yourself. You have to talk to yourself. If you have negative thoughts going on in your head and you're just listening to yourself, it doesn't mean that that's true or that that's reality. It's not. It's just our ancestors trying to protect you. So you have to learn how to talk to yourself. And people maybe don't know how to do that. So mm-hmm. a big part of what I help people with is like, let's figure out a few positive self-talk sentences to say to ourselves so that when we're about to go do something, we remind ourselves, I carry myself with big body language and confidence. I trust in my process and compete in the moment. Things like that. When you practice what to tell yourself, it will come more naturally. Mm-hmm. And then when you're doing all of the body language focused self-talk, then you are doing confidence. There is a small part of it that is, based on past experiences and past successes, for example, right? Mm-hmm. But it's a very small part. And the main big part is doing the BFS. So that's something that I like for people to understand when I leave, it's not some elusive thing that you're trying to chase, but you have no idea how to get it. Mm-hmm. And you don't have to come in first in the world to get it. Like you can do it if you think the right way.
Mm. Thank you so much for sharing that. That's a whole different approach because, as you said, people think, people are innately born confident or not. But then you're saying like, no, this is actually a skill that you train. And with the guidance of a coach like you to break it down, like I've never heard of that before, body focus and what was the S again?
Self-talk.
Self-talk. Yes.
Self-talk.
And then
you want the self-talk to be positive.
Right. And so then it sounds to me just from this is like, okay, these are actual steps to work on and implement as part of your routine, daily habits, so that becomes natural. And then you are confident because you work on confidence. It isn't something where like, well, I don't have it. Like, okay, well, we're going to work on it. You're going to build it just like you build a muscle, just like you build your paddle technique. You will build this with these steps.
Exactly. And the whole goal of any of the mental performance stuff is to get you in a calm state. Like you don't want your heart rate and your respiratory rate through the roof because you're going to think your best and perform your best when you are calm and thinking clearly. Mm-hmm. So any of those 7 skills, they're all meant to help you see things clearly, keep everything, where it's functioning at its highest level.
Mm-hmm. And that just makes sense for all sports. When you look at athletes that truly are commanding the field, whether it's on the water, where it's on the court, wherever it is, they carry themselves in a different way. And I'm just thinking of this, the
Yeah.
whole BFS, it's that mind-body connection. There is a calm, that there's calm in the chaos, that you can see that there's something about these individuals. And I love how you also just shared this is something that teens at school, when they're taking an exam or a presentation and the CEO is going to be there, and we get stuck in that, right? So the negative bias, the reticular activating system is used to, oh, the brain wants to just go to, this is what happened in the past. Like, no, we are here right now. Right here, right now. What's going on right here, right now? I'm breathing. I feel myself sitting in the chair. So that you can engage and act based on whatever's going on right here, right now. And that's
Exactly.
so powerful. Isn't that wonderful? Because it's not all these other things. These are abilities, skills, talents that are innately within you when you focus on them, when you train them, when you work on them, just like you do with all the others.
Yeah. You just need to know how to do them.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. So if you were to go through the visualization, for example, the audio, it's going to talk you down to be calm, but it's going to run through a few self-affirmation points. And then it's going to ask you to think back to a time when you were successful and to think forward to the next thing that's coming up for you. And so whatever that thing is, if it's a big board meeting that you really want to go well, guess what? It's going to go a lot better if you spend the 2 weeks leading up to it every day, spending 10 minutes and visualizing how calm you're going to be and how it's going to go well and how it's going to end up the way you want it to be. That is your best chance to have it go as well as it can go.
Yeah. I'm wondering too, I am not a mental performance coach, not certified, but I delve into it because it's just so amazing. And maybe that is another step. But I wanted to, do you talk about conscious and the subconscious with your, with the people that you're working with? It's like, we're working on changing the brain. Like that's what it is the brain is in a state that it is, but it's still malleable, whatever age that you're at. And when you use these through the guidance, through these different techniques, shift the way in which your brain functions, the firing, and that instead of going to these usual patterns, like, nope, that's a negative loop. We're not going to go there anymore. We're going here. So that's why we repeat this over and over and over and over and over.
Yep. Another thing that I work a lot with athletes is when you do make a mistake and it doesn't go the way you want, we set up a routine to get you back to playing your best. So we set up a routine to let that thing that happened, it's just in the past, let's get you back to present. And we set up steps and my athletes practice those steps so that when you're in the competition or whatever, you have a way of, because you've practiced it, you have a way of getting yourself out of thinking about that. And instead of dwelling on it, for hours and hours and ruining the rest of your performance, you can get out of it and go back to being nice and present and doing your best. So that is another big thing too. But one of the surgeons I work with at work, she hired me to work with her 16-year-old daughter, who is a rep volleyball Division I player. And so my friend calls the mental performance the secret sauce. And it really is. Like my mental performance coach that I did the certification through, his name's Brian Kane. He talks about getting into a college in the States that was a Division I baseball team. And he'd been the best, of course, back in his high school. But once he got to a higher level, everybody was good around him. And he full on acknowledges that he didn't have a good mental performance side of the game. And that's why he didn't succeed in going on to it. So he now works with pro athletes, Major League Baseball players, MMA fighters, NFL players. And then he shares interviews with these pro athletes. and they are doing the exact same drills that he taught me in this certification, the exact same. So it works if you're a 10-year-old, it works if you're a professional in the NFL, and it's really just a matter of getting your brain working the way you want it to, and knowing certain tricks to it, like just of knowing how it works and then going through some drills to get better at certain things of it. Yeah. So a really cool thing that happened recently is I was working with this volleyball player, the 16-year-old, and in the fall we had gone through all of the 7 things, and she was really into it. She was absorbing everything. I always send everybody a summary sheet afterwards so that they can, go back to it and remind themselves later. But then I hadn't worked with her for a couple of months over Christmas and in January. And so then about a month ago, her mom asked me, she's like, can you please do some more sessions with her? And as soon as we did, she was right back to like performing incredibly well. And she just needed to be reminded of the things that her and I had set up. So she recently had provincials last weekend here in Canada. And out of hundreds of girls that were there were scouts there from Team Ontario. And they only picked 28 girls out of, it was over 200 girls there. I'm not sure the number. 200, maybe even a bit more than that. And these scouts noticed her court presence, skills for sure. Yeah, she's got really great skills and she works hard on those, but they really noticed her in part because of how she carried herself when she made a mistake, how she just bounced right out of it, things like that. So it was really awesome to hear how really well she was doing. It's made me so happy.
Yes. That's also the beauty and the reward of what we do as coaches, when you can see the individual that you're working with thrive, when they are achieving, sometimes, or maybe a lot of times, beyond what they could even imagine for themselves. Like, wow, I made it provincials. Wow.
Yeah. And she's playing a team sport, right? So it's like, I reminded her, I'm like, there's only so much, you can't control the rest of your team. So you're going to play the best you can play. But of course, if the whole team maybe does or doesn't do as well as you want, there's that. But it's really great for her to see that even though her team didn't, win gold and come in first, she was so surprised that these scouts noticed her because she didn't feel like they played that great. I shouldn't say that. It's not really that way, but like she thought they could have played better. Yeah. But I love that she saw that she didn't have to be on a team that finished in first place to have scouts realize what a great player she is.
Yeah. And that's also a testament to the scouts being able to, like, the skill that they have to hone in on. They already came in looking for, we want this. They have a certain persona. They, like you said, the presence, like that's something, presence in the way in which one carries oneself, the way one walks on the court, the way the individual, this athlete interacts with the whole entire team. Like that is so powerful, because again, it's one individual, their influence, their presence affects everything else. And yes, that is what we want. Despite whatever's going on, she's got what we want. And that's
exactly.
So good.
Yeah. These 2 scouts, they are actually head coaches at universities here in Ontario. So they coach at the university level, and they come together to work on Team Ontario. So yeah, it was
so exciting.
A great experience for her.
So congratulations. I mean, because it is working for everyone, athletes, non-athletes. I mean, so I like to distinguish, because I'm sure you've experienced this as well, that there are athletes, but some people who train hard for competitions that are not at these elite levels don't a lot of times, oh, I'm not an athlete. If you're training hard for
Yeah,
something, you're an athlete,
that's
period.
bullshit.
That's
Yeah,
it. Exactly, right? So
100%.
like athletes, period. All athletes that are working for what? Because I believe that there's a belief within that I can do more. Like, why are we doing this? To make progress. And I know
Yeah,
realistically I'm not going to be making the Olympics, but I know that I can do better than where I am right now. Just because, I
yeah,
mean, when you understand the things, you break things down. When you have a coach, the paddle stroke, like, yeah, it's so technical. I know I can do better, but I'm doing one piece at a time, working on one thing, and it's coming together. It's becoming more smooth. And the beautiful analogies that you can take from paddling that apply to life, that in the beginning you have to learn each piece. You don't understand, how do I hold my paddle? How do I stand? Where do I move? Right. And then eventually it becomes so natural and becomes smooth. It becomes, and this process that you're explaining, broken down into 7 steps. And then within each step, there's more steps, but it becomes a way of life, which is
yeah,
so fantastic. Like you're explaining with this 16-year-old
yes,
that she embodying the practice, that this is a
yeah,
practice. You practice this every day, but it becomes a part of who you are.
exactly, exactly. And it really is all about the process, right? Like you
Mhm.
have to enjoy and love the process of all of these things that we're doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just thinking right now of watching Simone Biles in the Olympics.
Hmm.
She's a perfect example of, working on her mental side of things. You can
Hmm.
definitely see her talking out loud to herself before she's about to start whatever her event
Yeah.
is,
Yeah.
and just being so present and so focused. Like,
Hmm.
yeah, it's awesome to watch.
Yeah. And so I'm curious also, because you have multiple roles, multiple hats. Christy as the athlete, Christy as the coach. Talk to, I love using that analogy of the flow. How do you flow? How do you balance these different hats that you wear?
Yeah,
I'm
you know
curious.
what? It's tricky. It's tricky because for a few years I was so focused on getting better as an athlete, right?
Yeah.
And then I started SUP coaching, which I love, but it didn't take a lot of my time.
Mhm.
And now with this mental performance thing, it's taking a lot of my time. Like, because
Yeah.
I want to grow it into a big business. I want to be
Mhm.
able to leave my job at the hospital and early retire. It's COVID was not a fun time for me. And yeah, it just kind of turned a career that I used to love into something that just totally burnt me out. So
Mhm.
yeah, so the more I can spend having these kind of conversations with people that just like totally lights me up inside is, for me, is a win. And so truthfully, when I raced at Sarasota Worlds back in November, so just 4 or 5 months ago,
Mhm.
um, I had spent the whole year, because I started this process like in January of last year. And even though in my mind I was like following the Paddle Monster program and trying to get my workouts in, anything that came up with coaching, it just it just ended up, and probably because I wanted it to, but it just ended up taking priority over my own training.
Mhm.
And so by the time I got to Sarasota, it was like, okay, I've done as good as I could, but it is not, I'm not the trained athlete that I thought I was going to be 10 months earlier.
Mhm.
And that's okay. It's totally okay. I can still enjoy the racing. I can still enjoy the whole atmosphere and being there with really good friends and cheering them on,
Mhm.
and knowing that you can only do so much. And if you're saying yes to one thing, that means you're saying no to something else, for
Mhm.
sure. So I can't be a full-time mom, a full-time hospital worker, a full-time training athlete, and a full-time starting up a business. Like, you just can't
Right.
do all of that.
Mhm.
So I'm being kind to myself and just
Yeah.
knowing that I can train as much as I can. I still can. I obviously I've always called myself an athlete, but I
Yeah.
still consider myself an athlete, but it's just not as high on my priority list as what it was. And
Mhm.
I think a lot of routines and habits for me, just they do come pretty naturally in my life. But it's one of those things of just setting up your priorities, Like for me, I sit on a Sunday and I will make a plan in my calendar of basically blocks of time. And so I see my work schedule at the hospital. I see if, Noah's got a dentist appointment or something that I have to do. And then I plan out for the week, where are my office hours for coaching? Where are my training sessions that I'm not going to not do, that are going to be a priority, but it won't be as many as it was, say, a year ago. And then once I set the plan, it's like, okay, if I fulfill the week the way this looks right now, then that is successful to me. So yeah, so there's when it comes to habits and stuff, there's a really cool app out there called Habit Share, and it's a free app. Yeah, it's a free app. I'm just going to pull it up here quick just to kind of show you what it looks like. But it's an app where you have to put some thought into what habits you want to be doing and what are important to you.
Oh, nice.
So, things like drinking more water and getting to bed at a certain time and getting enough protein in, stuff like that. And the cool thing with the app is you can go in and, so for today, I'm going to go in there, and probably before bed, I usually fill these out. So I'll tick off here if I did it or didn't do it. And then when you click on the habit itself, you can go back and see over the month how you've done. And so you can decide what is important to you, put them into the app. You can look back and say, oh, okay, like I did really well with this thing, but I didn't do so great with that thing. Like, how can I make it better so that I can do it better, do it more often? And the app, you can set it up to send you notifications. So, for certain things, I just have a notification sent at 9 a.m. But things like drinking more water, I can set it up to send me 4 notifications through the day. And so it will pop up on my phone at like 1 o'clock, 5 o'clock, drink more water. And it's like, oh yeah, I haven't drank water in the last hour or two. So let me go find some water. So it's a really cool way to set up something for yourself for tracking habits and tracking basically what I was saying before of like, if you set up how you want your week to look and it's in line with your goals of how you want to be, then on a daily basis, if you're doing those things, you are working towards your goal. Yeah.
Yes. And I really appreciate that, and of how that all ties in with your coaching, how you've broken things down, and then ways to helpful tools to help people help themselves, because it is technology can be used to our advantage when we consciously use it with something like this, that it's like, oh, this is like having your personal coach there to remind you, because when we're learning something, when we're trying something new, you need reminders. We need reminders until it becomes second nature. But until then, to have something like that. And I love how you also have the opportunity to look back and see, how am I doing? What's my progress? Because, if not, you can have these lofty goals. Oh, I'm going to drink more water. Well, did you drink more water? Yeah, I did. But did you actually, let's see your numbers. Oh, then you can see, yes, I did. And that's then again, it shows. Yes. And then it shows how simple, like, let's not overcomplicate things. Life is already quite complicated. Let's simplify. And that's also the way that I like to work, is like, let's break things down. How simple can it be so that it's easy? And then maybe there's also some enjoyment as well. Like, you know what? I actually feel good when I have this reminder to drink some water. That reminds me to slow down, that this is my opportunity to take care of myself, and like you said, living your values. Like, this is me living my values, that what is truly important. Let me do these things. And I have the reminder to help me keep doing these things.
Yep. And that is a big piece of what I work with people on, is let's go through and let's use this tool that I have to go through and tell me what your goals are. Tell me what your life mission you want it to look like. And you can't hit a target if you don't have a target to aim at. So it's really important to actually put that thought into, how do I want to be remembered when I, am older and retired, and, how do I want people to see me? how do I want to see myself?
Mhm.
And then once you figure out what your goals are, then you can figure out, well, what do I need to do to get there? And then that's where things like the habit share would come in. And I always tell people, like, just start off very small. Like, don't put 10 things in there and expect crazy, amazing things to happen. It's like, you know what? Put in like 3 things, 2 or 3 things. And then once you're doing those regularly, then you can add some other things. But
Yes.
the other cool thing with habit share is it's shareable with friends. So for me, working with an athlete, when I do a session with them, that'll be one of the first things I do is say, okay, let's pull up your habit share and let's see how it's going, and then talk about that. But for you, for example, if you have a partner that you keep each other accountable by doing your workouts, well, you could be friends on that app and you could see how each other's doing. And just that little extra accountability factor is it's super helpful for sure.
Yeah. And that's the one word I hear that quite often. I need accountability. I need accountability. Like, yep, that is a way.
Yeah.
That is a way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep. You
So,
can have a friend do it,
Chris,
or you can have a coach do it, right?
exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, Christy, based on everything that we've discussed today, kind of wrapping things up from your own personal journey to your coaching philosophy, what's your top piece of advice for individuals who are looking to take the next step in their athletic or career endeavors?
I think my top advice, because I consider this my top advice for myself as well. It was kind of funny when I started the certification, I wasn't really planning on using it for myself. And then I'm like, oh yeah, I guess I can use this myself. Like, so it's kind of funny. Anyways, the biggest thing that has helped me in this last year of this journey is just really truly being present and being where my feet are. And it's unbelievable when we get busy as adults, how much, even if you are out on the water paddling, like what percentage of that are you actually thinking about what you have to do next, or what happened that morning at work or something like that? It's like, you know what? Let's just be present and just soak in what's happening right now. And it's really how you enjoy life. And so to really practice that for your sport, practice it at work, and then the more you do it, the more easily it comes to you. But it's a really big skill to have, to just really enjoying things as they happen and not constantly be thinking into the future. And you look back and how many years have gone by that you didn't fully enjoy when you could have. So yeah, be present,
So powerful.
be where your feet are.
I like that. I like that. That's so interesting because, I mean, it ties in with different practices, but especially yoga practice, because it's presence. You're practicing presence, being here now. And the life happens in the moment, not out there, not back there. It's where you are. Like you said, where your feet are, where you're planted. And then you're truly there and available to experience all that is there in that precious moment of, like you said, on the water, like look at the sun shining on the water and the sounds and all of the things, and get lost in that present moment, the beautiful present moment.
Exactly.
Christy, it has been really a wonderful conversation with you, and could talk more and more because this is one of my most favorite things to talk about.
I could talk all day too.
Yes. So for listeners that want more on you and what you do, how can they find you? Where is the best way to direct them? And I'll include it in the show notes.
Yeah, that would be awesome. So I would send people to my website first, probably. So MacMillan Elite Mindset altogether.com. And there you'll see all sorts of little snippets of different things that I'm up to, and get a better idea of what the mental performance coaching is actually about. And if you're a paddler, check out paddlemonster.com, and you can join in on my coaching there, which is all geared towards paddling, which is awesome.
So exciting.
Yeah.
Christy, thank you again
Yeah.
so much. And I look
Yeah.
forward to, like we said, somewhere we're going to meet on this wonderful planet.
We are.